For years, we've all wondered if this moment would ever come: the heartbreak, the unanswered questions, the pain of losing someone you love so deeply. But what if the impossible happens? What if Ty Borden, the man Amy thought she lost forever, returns? And what if, in that moment, he doesn't just want to rekindle the past, but is holding something much heavier, an apology that could change everything between them? Get ready, because Ty's emotional apology to Amy is about to tear down everything they thought they knew about love, trust, and the future they hoped for. It's a peaceful morning at Heartland Ranch. The golden hues of the rising sun cast a warm glow over the sprawling fields. The horses graze quietly, the faint sound of hooves against the earth mixing with the soft breeze. But there's something different today, something just under the surface. The tranquility feels heavy, almost like the world itself is weighting the land, the sky, even the air seems to hold its breath. For Amy Fleming, the ranch that has been her sanctuary since Ty's death now feels like a place caught between two worlds. As she walks into the barn, the familiar scent of hay and leather fills her senses, but the weight of the years without Ty lingers in her chest. The days have turned into months, and those months into years, but it's never truly felt like she's moved on. Sure, she's learned to put on a brave face for Lindy, for Jack, for everyone else who still needs her. But when the world isn't watching, in the quiet moments of solitude, her heart still aches with the memory of what was lost. Today, she's brushing Spartan's mane, the rhythmic strokes almost mechanical. It's a routine she's followed without thinking, something to fill the silence, a way to keep the sorrow at bay. But even Spartan seems to sense the shift in the air. He lifts his head, ears pricking forward, nostrils flaring. Suddenly, Amy feels it too, a quiet stirring in the air, a sense that something is about to change. She pauses, her heartbeat quickening as the hairs on the back of her neck stand on end. The sound of distant hooves reaches her ears, faint at first, but growing louder with every passing second. Amy freezes, her breath catching in her throat. She knows that sound. She knows that rhythm. It's the gallop of a horse, strong and confident, but with a strange urgency. Her mind races. Could it be? Is this another one of her dreams? Her mind playing tricks on her, hoping for what she's longed for but has feared she'll never have? She turns slowly, her eyes scanning the horizon, the hope rising in her chest but tempered by the fear of disappointment. And then she sees him, Ty. At first, it's like a mirage, an image pulled from the deepest recesses of her memories. The sunlight surrounds him, casting him in a golden glow, making it hard to see clearly. But as the figure on horseback grows closer, there's no mistaking it, the face she thought she would never see again, the man she thought she buried in the past. Her world tilts. Her breath catches in her throat. Her hands tremble so violently that she has to grip the barn door to steady herself. This isn't possible. She saw him die. She mourned him. She moved on because she had to. And yet, here he is, standing in front of her, alive. Ty's face is just as she remembered it, familiar, yet so much time has passed. Her vision blurs as tears begin to well in her eyes. She's caught between disbelief and the flood of emotions threatening to overwhelm her. Her heart slams against her ribs, and for a long moment, neither of them moves. The world around them seems to fade, like they are caught in a moment frozen in time. It's as if nothing else matters. Amy doesn't know whether to run toward him or to collapse under the weight of what she's feeling. The tears spill down her cheeks before she even realizes they're falling, the grief that she's carried for so long breaking free. Ty, still on horseback, watches her with the same raw vulnerability, his eyes glassy, filled with the unshed tears of years apart. His expression mirrors the pain and longing that she feels. He too has suffered. He too has waited. Finally, after what feels like an eternity, Amy moves. She doesn't walk. She doesn't hesitate. She runs. The distance between them disappears in an instant. The force of her impact nearly knocks Ty off his horse, but he holds her tightly, as if he's afraid she might vanish again. His arms are warm, familiar, the scent of leather and pine filling her senses. And it's all too much. Amy sobs against his chest, clutching him like he's the only thing keeping her grounded, afraid that if she lets go, she'll wake up and find that he's never truly returned. Ty's arms encircle her, and his own body shakes with silent sobs. He buries his face in her hair, his voice thick with emotion, raw and hoarse, whispering, "I'm here, Amy. I'm here." The words feel like a dream, too good to be true, but they are real. He is real. And in this moment, as the world around them fades away, Amy lets herself believe it too. But the reality of the situation doesn't let them stay in this suspended moment for long. The sounds of the ranch begin to return, the distant calls of the horses, the soft rustling of the trees in the wind. But the feeling of disbelief hangs heavily in the air. Ty is back. He's alive. But the question is, why? How? And more importantly, what does this mean for Amy and Ty moving forward? What is he really here for? And is this reunion a second chance, or is it the beginning of a much deeper and more painful journey? Ty's return isn't just a reunion. It's a story of survival, secrets, and the kind of love that can only survive the hardest of trials. The sound of Amy's sobs quiets as she stands in Ty's arms, the weight of their reunion pressing down on them both. But as much as she wants to lose herself in the warmth of his embrace, the questions begin to surface, loud, insistent, impossible to ignore. She can't stop herself from pulling back, her eyes searching his face, looking for any trace of the man she once knew. But there's something different about him now, something more haunted, more broken. The moment they're sharing, this reunion, has an undercurrent of mystery, a secret that Ty is clearly carrying. "I don't understand," Amy whispers, her voice trembling as she stares at him. Her heart is racing, her mind struggling to catch up with the reality of what's happening. Happening? How? Why? You were dead, Ty. I buried you. I mourned you. Ty's eyes shift away, his jaw tightening as if the very mention of the past pains him more than she can imagine. He exhales slowly, a long breath, and for a moment, Amy fears he's going to disappear again, like he's not truly here. But then he speaks, his voice thick, and it's clear this is something he's been holding on to for years. "I never wanted to leave you," Ty begins, his voice ragged, raw with emotion. "I never wanted to leave our family. But I had no choice, Amy." He looks at her with such intensity, his gaze pleading, as if he's asking her to understand something she's not yet ready to hear. "What you saw that day? It wasn't the full truth." Amy steps back slightly, her brow furrowing in confusion. "What do you mean it wasn't the full truth?" she asks, almost too afraid to hear the answer. Her arms instinctively cross over her chest, as if bracing herself for whatever is coming next. Ty swallows hard, the pain evident in his eyes. His hands tremble slightly as he reaches up, running them through his hair in frustration. "I was shot, Amy. I was dying. But at the last second, there was a slim chance that I could survive. The doctors knew it was risky, but they had a way to save me." He pauses, as if the weight of those words is almost too much for him to bear. "The only problem was, I had to disappear." Amy shakes her head in disbelief, her voice rising. "Disappear? Ty, why? Why would you?" "They were still out there, Amy," Ty interrupts, his voice harsh with regret. "The people who shot me. It wasn't a random accident. It was a hit. Someone wanted me dead. And if they found out I was still alive, they would have come after me. Worse, they would have come after you and Lindy." His eyes lock onto hers, desperate, pleading. "I couldn't let that happen. I couldn't risk you and Lindy's safety. So I begged everyone to keep it a secret, to let you believe I was gone. I thought it was the only way to protect you." Amy takes a step back, her breath catching in her throat. The weight of his words hits her like a physical blow. She doesn't know what to say, how to process the truth he's revealing. Her mind is spinning, her heart aching with the intensity of it all. "You lied to me." Her voice is barely above a whisper, as if she's afraid to say it out loud, afraid of what it means for everything she's believed in. Ty's eyes are filled with pain, regret, and guilt. "I didn't want to," he says softly. "I didn't want to lie to you. But I had no choice. I couldn't risk losing you both." He takes a step forward, his hands reaching out for her, but Amy pulls back. She can't bring herself to let him touch her, not yet, not until she's sorted through this whirlwind of emotions. For a long moment, they stand in silence, the weight of everything between them, years of grief, longing, confusion, hanging in the air like a storm ready to break. Amy's mind is a tangle of thoughts. How could he have done this to her? How could he have left her in the dark for so long, made her believe that he was gone forever? But then there's another part of her, the part that still loves him, still aches for him, that can't help but understand his decision, even if it hurts her to admit it. "Why didn't anyone tell me?" she asks, her voice strained with the effort to keep her emotions in check. "Why didn't Jack or Lou or anyone say something? I could have handled it, Ty. I could have understood. You didn't have to leave me in the dark." Ty closes his eyes, the pain of the past years etched deeply in his face. "I begged them, Amy. I begged them to keep you safe. The only way I could keep you safe was to make you believe I was dead. I thought it was the only way." His voice cracks, and he looks at her, pleading. "Do you have any idea how many nights I lay awake, knowing you were out there grieving me, knowing you were breaking? It killed me, Amy. Every damn day. But I did it because I couldn't risk losing you." Amy's breath catches in her chest, and the tears start to spill freely. "You think it was easy for me? You think I wasn't breaking too?" Her voice rises, thick with emotion. "I lost myself, Ty. I tried to be strong for Lindy, for everyone, but I wasn't the same without you. Lindy grew up without her father. I had to learn how to live without you. And now you just show up. You show up, and I'm supposed to just accept it?" Ty steps closer, his hands trembling as he reaches for her. But this time, Amy doesn't pull away. She doesn't know what to feel, but her body betrays her, leaning into his touch despite the storm inside her. He cups her face in his hands, his gaze full of guilt, full of love. "I never stopped loving you, Amy. Not for a second. Every decision I made, it was always for you. For Lindy. I swear, I did it because I thought it was the only way." Amy closes her eyes, tears streaming down her face, feeling the truth of his words in every fiber of her being. But the pain is too much. It's overwhelming. Her heart is torn between the love she still feels for him and the devastation of what he's put her through. "I don't know how to move forward from this, Ty," she whispers, her voice breaking. "How do I just pretend like none of this happened?" Ty takes a deep breath, his voice soft but steady. "I don't expect you to forgive me right away. But I'm here, Amy. I'm not going anywhere. If it takes weeks, months, years, I'll wait for you. I'll do whatever it takes to fix this. To fix us." And with that, a small flicker of hope rises between them, fragile, uncertain, but alive. The road ahead won't be easy, filled with questions, pain, and healing that will take time. But for the first time in years, there's a possibility, a hope that maybe, just maybe, their love can survive after all. The silence between them stretches, heavy and thick, as Amy stands there in Ty's arms, her face still damp with tears, her heart still searching for answers. Still a tangled mess of emotions, Amy stands frozen. For years, she believed that part of her had died with Ty, that she had built a new life on the shattered pieces of her heart, moving forward for Lindy, for the ranch, for the sake of everyone else. But now, in this impossible moment, with Ty standing right in front of her, the life she thought she had rebuilt feels fragile, like it could all come crashing down. Ty watches her closely, his own eyes clouded with a mix of guilt and longing. Every second that passes feels like an eternity, and yet neither of them is ready to speak the words that will change everything. Amy's chest tightens, the questions piling up in her mind, the answers still so far away. But it's not just the questions about Ty's return, it's everything. Everything they've both lived through in the years they've been apart. Do you ever think about what we lost? Amy's voice breaks the silence, a quiet question filled with pain. The words carry the weight of 1,000 untold emotions. Her gaze flickers to the ground before meeting his once more. All the years. Everything we've missed. The life we were supposed to have. Ty's expression softens, his heart breaking as he steps closer to her. He lifts his hand, reaching out as if he's afraid of crossing some invisible line, but desperate to hold her again. "Every day, Amy," he says, his voice thick with emotion. "I think about it every day. I think about how much I missed, how much I wanted to be there for you, for Lindy. I wasn't there for you when you needed me the most. I wasn't there for our daughter. That's something I'll never be able to fix, no matter how many times I apologize." Amy's throat tightens at his words, and she looks away, trying to hide the overwhelming emotions surging inside her. It feels like a dream, but it's too real. Ty's here, standing before her alive. She never thought she'd have this chance to look into his eyes again, to hear his voice, to feel his touch. But she also never imagined the pain this moment would bring. "I don't know if I can forgive you, Ty," she whispers, the words slipping out before she can stop them. "I don't know if I can just move on. You've been gone for so long. I've had to learn how to live without you." Ty closes his eyes briefly, the rawness of her words cutting deep. He swallows hard, his chest tightening as if the weight of her pain is pressing down on him, suffocating him. "I understand," he says quietly. "I do. And I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I know I don't deserve your trust. But I'm here, Amy. I'm not going anywhere this time. I swear to you I'll do whatever it takes to make it right." Amy's breath catches, her emotions swirling in a cyclone of confusion. She wants to believe him. She wants to feel the hope that's slowly growing between them. But part of her is still stuck in the past, the pain of losing him, the grief, the loneliness. It's all still there, buried deep within her, and she doesn't know how to dig it all up, let alone rebuild what was lost. "I don't know how to fix this, Ty," Amy admits, her voice small, fragile. She looks up at him, her eyes searching his face for any sign that this time, this moment, is real. "I don't know how to just forget what happened, how to forget the pain you left behind." Ty reaches out gently, cupping her face in his hands. His touch is warm, familiar, but also foreign after all these years. "I'm not asking you to forget, Amy. I'm not asking you to erase the past, but I want to be here now. I want to be here for you, for Lindy. And I want to rebuild what we had. It's not going to be easy, and I know I've hurt you in ways I'll never fully understand. But I'm willing to fight for us, for you, for our family." Amy's eyes soften, the vulnerability in his voice making her heart ache. She's been waiting for this moment for so long, but now that it's here, it feels like the ground beneath her is shifting. She can't be sure of anything anymore, not of the past, not of the future. But there's one thing she's sure of, she still loves him. And maybe, just maybe, that love is enough to try again. She leans into his touch, closing her eyes for a brief moment, letting herself feel the warmth of his hands, the same hands that once held her so tightly. "I don't know if I can trust you yet," Amy whispers, her voice trembling. "I don't know if I can let you back in completely." Ty's expression is filled with regret and longing, and he nods slowly, accepting her words. "I know," he says softly. "And I'm not asking you to. I'll be here every step of the way, and I'll wait as long as it takes. I'll do whatever it takes to prove to you that I'm not going anywhere, that I'm here for good." For a long moment, they stand there in the quiet, the only sound the beating of their hearts. It feels like everything is still, like the world is holding its breath, waiting to see what will happen next. Amy's mind is a whirlwind of thoughts, confusion, anger, love, hope. But there's something else there too, the faintest flicker of hope. For the first time in years, she's beginning to believe that maybe, just maybe, they can heal. Ty looks at her, his voice barely a whisper. "I'm sorry, Amy. I'm so sorry for everything." Amy's tears flow freely now, but this time, they're not just tears of sorrow. They're tears of release, of a future that's uncertain but filled with possibility. She takes a shaky breath, looking up at him, her heart in her throat. "I don't know what comes next," she says, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I'm willing to find out with you." Ty's face softens, and a small, hopeful smile touches his lips for the first time since his return. He reaches for her again, and this time, Amy doesn't pull away. As his arms surround her, as she feels the steady beat of his heart against hers, she knows that the road ahead will be hard, filled with challenges and moments of doubt. But she also knows that they will face it together. Whatever happens next, they'll fight for each other. And that's enough for now. The sun continues to rise over Heartland Ranch, casting its golden light across the fields as Amy and Ty stand together, slowly beginning to rebuild what was once lost. The journey ahead is uncertain, but in this moment, there's a glimmer of hope, a belief that their love can survive and maybe even thrive once more. The day stretches on, but for Amy and Ty, time seems to have paused. The rest of the family, who had watched from a distance as the reunion unfolded, now lingers around the ranch, giving them space. Yet their presence is still felt. The weight of the moment isn't lost on anyone. For Jack, Lou, Tim, and Georgie, Ty's return is both a miracle and a shock, one they didn't believe could happen.